Why are you even in politics if you're going to ask for your opposition's ideas, Theresa? And, I mean, you do know who your opposition are, don't you? They have the worst ideas. Ideas that consistently fail. The man praises men who failed at what they tried to do, which is usher in the socialist utopia, and instead create backwards dystopian hellholes for their populations to suffer in, while persecuting those people who speak out. But no, give me your ideas. Why? Why aren't you crushing them? Why aren't you just thrashing them? Jeremy Corbyn should be the laughingstock of Parliament. You know, the English liberal Parliament we're supposed to have. He should be an absolute joke. You should be thrashing him. But instead you're like, oh please Jeremy, what can I do better? If you have to ask that question, everyone is going to realise that they don't actually need you to be the PM. They need Jeremy Corbyn to be the PM. And believe it or not, I don't want that. In an interview on the Today programme, Mr Green, Mrs May's effective deputy, dismissed speculation about her future as nonsense, insisting she was the right person to be Prime Minister in these difficult times. She's not. She's a terrible Prime Minister. She doesn't stand for anything. And the things that she did stand for in the Conservative manifesto, she's A, walked back, and B, were fucking horrible. So horrible that even Jeremy Corbyn looked good by comparison. And he really did bring it back from being so phenomenally unpopular to now being more popular than Theresa May. She has to go. She is terrible. Why are you still keeping her? What's in it? You have other options, and you should explore those options. The Prime Minister, attempting to shore up her position for this week's repeal bill, which opens the way to Brexit, will use her speech tomorrow to set a very different tone to her premiership. Tomorrow is the anniversary of her becoming Tory leader. As she publicises a report commissioned before the last election on tackling abuses in the gig economy, she will admit that she will not be able to implement its recommendations without some cross-party support. Yeah, that's because you fucked up, isn't it? You're not good at what you do. And what you do is totally out of touch with people. You don't have the common touch. And this is the thing, right? People have to understand about the British people and the Conservatives. There's something reassuring about the Conservative Party. There's something reassuring about the well-educated Etonian. Or at least there should be. Theresa May does not reassure people, because she's clearly weak. She doesn't know what she's doing. Jeremy Corbyn is a joke. He's not a popular man in this country, and he never will be. Even now, he's still not popular. He's just popular with a segment of the middle class. And there is a segment of the working class who just have no other choice. I mean, they certainly don't want to agree with Theresa May's vampire manifesto. So, what are they going to do? Who are they going to vote for? What choice do they have? Any half-decent alternative comes along, and they'll jump on that in a heartbeat. But anyway, she says, the reality of this now as Prime Minister is rather different. Yeah, it is. You really fucked it up. So I say to the other parties, come forward with your own views and ideas about how we can tackle these challenges as a country. We may not agree on everything, but through debate and discussion, the hallmarks of our parliamentary democracy, ideas can be clarified and improved and a better way forward found. Okay, Theresa. Jeremy Corbyn is not capable of finding a better way forward. He just doesn't have it. He's not the man. He's not the guy. He doesn't have any particularly good or original ideas. Everything he's doing, he's stealing from Chavez or Castro. And I'm not joking. Literally everything Corbyn has done has been stolen from a socialist, populist dictator in South America. He's not an original man. He doesn't have ideas. John McDonnell probably has ideas, but they're terrible ideas too. So, why are you taking any advice from the socialists? I'm sorry. You should be thrashing them. You should be needling them constantly. Asking them how they can prove that their ideas can work. Embarrassing them before the British public, who are not particularly fond of socialism. They like their social programs, but they certainly don't like the idea of taking someone else's money and redistributing it to themselves. They find it insulting to be told that they deserve someone else's money. They'll say, no, I don't. I didn't earn that. I don't deserve it. In fact, he did earn it. I don't deserve to take it. But the socialists wouldn't have you believe completely the opposite. But anyway, just the very premise of what's happening here, Theresa, means you're not the person to do this. You're not the guy. You need to go. You're weak. You're useless. You are not good at what you are doing. You do not understand the British people. You do not understand why you held such a commanding lead over Jeremy Corbyn. And I don't think you're capable of actually running a country properly. Even though I do still think Theresa May might actually still do a good job with Brexit. But really, I put that down to the influence of David Davis, who actually has a kind of understanding of what's going on here. But the thing is, there are definitely other options for the Conservatives. And I honestly do think that Jacob Rees-Mogg would actually be a better choice, by a long way. In fact, I find myself rather warming to the man. I don't even really know what his policies are, but I just like the way he conducts himself, and I like the way that he actually addresses arguments. I mean, watch this.
Well, with me here is Brexit campaigner and prominent Conservative MP, Jacob Rees-Mogg. Good morning to you.
Good morning.
When the election was called, when the snap election was called, you said it's always a good idea to trust the British people and ask them for their say. What do you think they've said with this outcome?
What do I think?
See, that's an interesting thing for him to say, isn't it? I mean, that's a distinctly populist message, but he's not an uneducated, chest-thumping man. He's actually very refined, and he understands that it would be in everyone's best interest if we actually did what the British people, as the large body that they are, overwhelmingly want done. And since we know at the moment Brexit is the thing people wanted, and we also know that there are various other problems, I mean, it might well actually be worth being a little bit populist. But anyway.
They've said, I think that the Conservatives obviously won. It's the highest share of the vote we've got since 1983, and Labour went up.
What do you think they've said with the fact that there isn't a majority?
I think they have said nothing about Brexit, because Brexit was not at the heart of the campaign. It's very interesting.
That's exactly what Theresa May wanted it to be.
It's what she wanted, but it's not what she got. And it's really interesting. You get all the Remainers coming on now saying that the campaign was all about Brexit. They said nothing beforehand, and they didn't dare go to the electorate saying let's stop Brexit before the election, and now they say the voters said something they didn't.
Okay, you say it's not about Brexit, then what does it mean?
I think we have to be honest about this, that it was a raspberry at the Conservative manifesto.
He understands what's happening, doesn't he? He actually gets it.
That was the bit that got us into trouble. I don't think it was...
Brexit was in the Conservative manifesto.
Yes, but that wasn't what was then the focus of the campaign, was it?
Yeah. The Brexit bit was the bad bit of the Conservative manifesto, Victoria. Obviously not. The Conservative manifesto was filled with cancer. I'm not even going to go through the list of points because I don't want this video to take me all night to edit.
The campaign was about social care, and Jeremy Corbyn campaigned well. I mean, he didn't do as well as Michael Howard in 2005, but nonetheless...
The problem with Jeremy Corbyn and Theresa May is that Theresa May doesn't have an argument against him, because he sits there making moral arguments, saying it should be this way, it should, and she doesn't really know how to tell him no. And she doesn't have any other way of attacking him. She's got nothing. She's empty. She doesn't know what she's doing with him. He's actually the perfect foil to her, unbelievably. But Rees-Mogg, he actually knows what he's talking about. He will actually bring an argument that has some data and facts in, as you've already seen. And he's quite popular. If you look at the side videos here, it's all Rees-Mogg moments and things like this with a reasonable number of views, considering he's not anyone... I'm not even sure he's held a government post before. But he seems to be remarkably popular. He actually seems to have a grassroots campaign building around him. And I can see why. He's likeable, he's memeable, and he seems to actually have the common people's interests at heart. And I'm sure there are going to be various democratic socialists who are screeching autistically. But he's alright. You know, I'm sure I don't agree with him on everything. I'm sure that I've got... probably many points of contention with some of the things he advocates for, but I haven't looked into them. I haven't looked into him beyond Brexit, and I haven't needed to, because so far I'm happy with what he said. I mean, maybe there is something, and if someone in the comments would like to tell me, I'd be more than happy to hear it. But at the moment, I'm just hearing things that are just pretty good, and okay, he's popular, he's charismatic, he's likable. Theresa May is none of these things. And unfortunately, politics isn't really a cerebral game. It's a popularity contest. So, be popular.
Jeremy Corbyn did much better than expectations, and politics is very much about expectations and momentum.
I mean, perhaps, sorry to interrupt it, perhaps it was the electorate saying to Mrs May, we don't particularly like you, we don't particularly like your domestic policies, we don't particularly like your policy on Brexit.
I don't think that's right, because Mrs May got more votes than Tony Blair got in 1997.
But
don't think people were complaining about the policy on Brexit, were they? I mean, the whole thing, I mean, you've just gone over there, Victoria, how this wasn't about Brexit, but maybe people didn't like the policy on Brexit. No, it wasn't about Brexit. You just said it yourself. The problem was the various other manifesto pledges and promises that were just abominable. Typical Tory crap that no one's interested in. That anyone with half a brain wouldn't have been put in there. And didn't she have to fire a bunch of her closest advisors? Why do you think that happened? It wasn't because of Brexit. That was the one thing that was actually a strength of hers, that she was actually good at. And that's why she had such a high popularity rating before Jeremy Corbyn just sat there and went, but what about my feels? And she was like, God, I don't know, I'm a robot.
Physical number
fewer seats than when you called the election.
That's absolutely right. So I'm not trying to pretend that the election was an enormous triumph. I'm just trying to contextualise it, that it wasn't as bad as some people have written up, that Mrs May got a pretty good mandate, but not as complete a mandate as I and other Tories would have liked to have seen.
Last year you said Boris Johnson would, quote, make a great Prime Minister and leader of the Conservative Party. He has the sense to be a unifier and the charisma to be an effective representative of the nation on the world stage. Do you still believe that?
I think Boris Johnson is a great man, one of the really big figures of British politics. But Mrs May is the Prime Minister. There is no vacancy. Boris has said he doesn't want to become leader now.
Do you believe that?
Yes.
Come on, look at this. Just look at this. Who is leadership material of the Conservative Party? Is it Boris Johnson, who, and I say this with a great amount of affection, I find him to be a very amusing man. I love him on Have I Got News For You? I like watching him on TV generally. I like listening to him speak. I like watching what he does. I don't think he's really prime ministerial material. Rees-Mogg, however, come on. Come the fuck on. You know who would make a better Prime Minister here. Theresa May, Boris Johnson, or a man who's actually speaking sense and is actually addressing the issues that people are actually concerned about in the way that they want to hear addressed. I mean, he's correct. That's the point. And he's not, like... I mean, he's not actually as pretentious as he looks. He's sat there going, well, I think, you know, the British people should have their say. That's what people are going to want to hear. So come on, come the fuck on, Conservatives. Jeremy Corbyn is getting worryingly close to being a popular leader. You need to do something.